gather around. Tour A.
Wow, that's clever.
80% of the stories you will hear tonight are true 100% of the time.
Yeah, I got one night, then I'm out of purgatory, then I'm back, okay? I ain't got much time.
You're going to kill me. Gather round, people.
My name is Rico, and I will be your guide.
Shall we go in and investigate who thinks it would not be wise? Please be careful. One of these days we'll get to everybody. Immediately!
Dead.
Is that better? Is that better? Tour A, is everyone here? We are leaving. We are departing soon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Beale Street Theater's historic Ghost Walk.
My name is Rico, and I will be your guide for this adventure. Tonight, you will hear stories of those long since past, and some who are struggling to move on to the next life. Now, you may want to hold on to those you came with, or simply make friends and hold on to them. Now, watch your step. Follow me into the night.
Would you like to hear another story? The commercial cafe was located in this very parking lot. And it is the spot that ended the Tong Wars. 15 deaths from Santa Barbara to Kingman was said to have occurred between the rival Tong gangs and ended with the death of a Kingman man, Tom King, in 1926. Now, it is important to understand that there was a thriving Chinese population at the turn of the century because they helped build the railroads that came through. This restaurant was owned by two men, Tom King and Don On. It was 8:45 at night on October 26, 1926, when a high-powered Chrysler rolled down the alley of Commercial Hotel on East Front Street. The Chrysler screeched to a stop and four Chinese men emerged, guns in hand. 238 Smith & Wessons and an automatic. The getaway driver stayed in the car, engine running. It wouldn't take long. "Hello, Tom!" were the last words Tom King heard as a barrage of bullets found their way to his head and torso, leaving him immediately dead. Don On didn't open the doors the next day, nor for many days thereafter. Don On, Tom's longtime friend and partner, vanished, unseen, unheard, unknown. Had the rival Tong gang found On and silenced an embarrassing leftover from the cafe? No one knows. One other key witness remained. One they didn't know about, Frank Craig, who was stocking the shelves at the time of the shooting around the corner, unseen to the gunman. Frank Craig came forward as a witness and ultimately became the undoing of the Tong gun. No one quite understood what caused these assassinations, but shortly after Tom King's death, a truce was signed between Tong, ending the killings. And Tom King? Legend says that his ghost appears here precisely at 8:45 on October 26th, and he retraces his final footsteps. Let's go. Remains of the great sign. Yes, folks, those are skeletal remains. In 1906, a man named Tom Irvine purchased the hotel, and it catered, come on, catered to the passengers of the Santa Fe Railroad just across the street. Tom lived in the hotel with his family, and
including his son Andrew. Now, Andy later became a well-known movie star and changed his name to Divine. In fact, this portion of Route 66 is named after him. Andy Divine is known for his gravelly cowboy voice, and when interviewed about his unique voice, he recalls a story of running through the hotel, playing with a curtain rod in his mouth. He tripped, and the rod punctured the back of his throat, forever changing his voice. The hotel bill has seen many visitors in its stay, including Charles Lindbergh and his wife Anne. The lobby of the hotel is a magnificent sight with a restored wooden check-in counter, the original telephone system, and a large atrium to let in the natural light. The owner is working to restore the building to its original glory. If you're interested in helping in the restoration project of the hotel bill, please see one of our volunteers after the tour. The Brunswick Hotel is a haunted Kingman landmark. It was the first three-story building of its kind, offering wonderful crystal glasses, elegant brass beds, and telephones in every room. Famous folks such as Clark Gable and his wife Carol Lombard frequented the hotel. In 1909, the hotel was originally purchased and built by two men from England, J.W. Thompson and John Mulligan. After opening the Grand Hotel, these two men fell in love with the same woman, Sarah Lee. This rivalry and courtship ruined their friendship and partnership. In anger, the two men built a wall directly down the middle, effectively creating two hotels, each half the size. John Mulligan ended up winning the heart of Sarah, and they had 3 children, all of which grew up in the hotel. A legend says that their youngest daughter died falling down the stairs. Her ghost still roams the hallways and is known to leave coins on the steps as she once did as a little girl. Their mother, Sarah, also died inside these very walls. Doctors say it was due to illness, but it is common knowledge that she died of the agony of the death of her youngest child. Several ghost hunters have visited the hotel and determined it is a hotbed for paranormal activity. They have sensed the unseen forces and even confirmed the random appearance of coins on the stairs. One story claims that a woman was pulled out of bed. Others claim that doors open and shut, items move, and footsteps can be heard in the corridors. It is no wonder there is so much anguish and tension now that the wall has been torn down. The only thing separating the fury of these two men. Look closely, and you can still see the glint of coins on the stairs. Look out into the desert southwest from Kingman. Those hills are Slaughterhouse Canyon. Can you hear the faint wailing of a woman? I assure you it isn't the wind which blows regularly through the valleys and open spaces. It is a ghost woman. Her name is forgotten to history, but her story is important because it reminds us of the 19th century settlers who spent their lives prospecting in Mojave County. This woman's life was hard. She lived with her children and husband in a small wooden shack in the canyon just outside Kingman. Her husband was a good, hard-working man. He provided for his loved ones by making forays into the mountains, searching for gold and other precious minerals. And like clockwork, he returned to their shack every 2 weeks with enough food to last until he returned. Until one day, he didn't come back. And the woman and her daughter and son began. The children cried out in their sleep, their bellies empty. The woman lost hope. She knew she couldn't walk to town. She was too weak. This went on for days.
Until one fateful night, the woman's mind snapped.
She donned her white wedding dress, brushed her hair, chopped her sleeping children into pieces, and dumped their body parts into the overflowing wash nearby. Her long flowing white gown was wet with the blood of her children.
Lovely.
When she sat in the water, she sat there and wailed, but no one could hear her because it was raining very hard and the wind was blowing. She tore clumps of hair out of her head until finally she died of starvation, a victim of the rigors of life in the unforgiving desert. It is said that she will only rest when her husband returns. But his story has never been told. It is likely he perished in the depths of a mine shaft or succumbed to the hot Arizona sun. So the next time you hear the wind wailing, watch out for a woman in a dripping red wedding dress.
There she is.
Shall we go in and investigate who thinks it would not be wise?
Who wants to risk life and limb and go inside? Continue, let everyone in. Don't go past the doorway though. I'm just gonna sneak in with you.
I guarantee you don't.
Thank you. Thank you for agreeing.
Gather round. It's safe over by the tombstone. Let's get over here. Here we are at the State Theater, now known as the Beale Street Theater. This theater has been quite a number of things in the past 60 years, including a movie theater, a concert hall, and even a church, and most recently, an antique store until it was purchased almost 4 years ago by Kingman's very own community theater. Kingman has a long history of historic theaters downtown, but the building you see here is known as the Second State and was built in 1948, replacing two others. The Lang Theater, built in 1917, and the First State Theater, built in 1939. But they were not large enough to house the flourishing audiences during the prime of classic Hollywood. But a darker story is told about an employee of the State Theater. This man ran the projector of the State Theater and was a faithful employee until the theater changed owners and he was fired. Legend says he knew the building so well he was able to sneak his way all through the catwalks and causeways, even when the building was locked up. He played tricks on the owners and the employees and the audiences. No one ever knew what happened to him. Some say he died inside these very walls and the secret corridor. His ghost is known today only as the Projectionist. And he is blamed for all the creaks and bumps in the night you may hear this evening. The Projectionist has almost been forgotten until just recently when an electrician was working on the remodel of the theater and saw something in the dark. He followed it all the way into the old projection room. And just as he was convinced it was only his imagination, he saw something fly past. He was so scared, he ran down the pitch black stairs and came out into the streets, and so far has refused to work in the theater. Some say this is a warning to the new owners that it is not safe to rebuild the theater and that it belongs to the Projectionist. Coincidentally, I hear the first show to be done in the newly redesigned theater will be alone in the street, I encourage you all to come and participate.
Okay.
Although it's unlikely you will all make it back in one piece, I suggest we cross this street carefully. This is the spirit of High Jolly. And he is here to tell you a story. Hello, High Jolly. Why are you here tonight? Well,
Gather round, my
gather round, people. Gather round.
We'll wait for the stragglers. Wouldn't want anybody to miss anything.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Not many people believe it, but camels used to roam the Mojave Desert landscape. An Army quartermaster, Major Henry Wayne, in 1848, suggested to the military that camels would benefit them in their southwestern campaigns because of their sure-footedness, their capacity to carry twice as much as horses and mules, and the ability to go much longer without water. In 1855, Congress approved $30,000 to purchase and import 74 camels. In 1856, Philip Tedrow, born in Syria, became the lead camel driver with the U.S. Army Camel Corps under the command of Lieutenant Edward Fitzgerald Beale. That's right, Beale Street Theater, Beale Hotel, all named for Lieutenant Beale. As I had made the pilgrimage, or Hajj, to Mecca, I was known as Haji Ali. Soldiers called me Haji Ali. I was one of several men hired by the Camel Corps to transport cargo across the Great American Desert. The experiment failed, due in part to the fact that the Army's burros, horses, and mules, not to mention the soldiers, hated and feared the large animals, often panicking. Add to that the increasing pressures of the American Civil War. This resulted in Congress not approving any more funding for the Camel Corps. The camels were auctioned off, and many were set loose in the desert. In my final years, I moved to Quartzsite, and I am buried in the Quartzsite Cemetery. But old-timers here in Arizona tell you that it's true. You can see High Jolly's ghost a-riding still. When the desert moon is bright, I come riding through the night, leading 4 and 20 camels across the hills. Thank you. One such camel can still be seen above the K on the ridge overlooking downtown Kingman. This camel is known as Red Ghost, and he still carries the headless, bloody body of his rider.
Oh, lovely.
Now, Red Ghost wasn't much liked when he was alive either. It is said a woman was found dead in a mining camp with hoof prints matching those of a deranged camel, said to have blood all over its body. Other miners stated that they had seen a camel, crimson as blood, wandering the desert with something mysterious on its back. They saw something fall from the camel, and upon closer investigation, found a human skull. Now, you may be wondering how that man got on the back of that camel. It's believed he was a deserter, and his sergeant strapped the coward to the back of the camel, drove them off into the desert, where the unforgiving Arizona sun soon doomed the camel and its rider to wander for all eternity as a ghost in a thick red coat. Salam
Thank you,
alaikum.
High Jolly. That was a wonderful story.
Yeah, I got one night, then I'm out of purgatory, then I'm back, okay? I ain't got much time. Alright. Have you heard of the 4th Street Gunslinger Ghost? It concerns Tab Duncan, the greatest two-handed gunslinger in Mojave County. Now, Tap was originally from San Saba, Texas, where his brother was hanged. Tap himself was a gambler, gunslinger, cattle rancher, and bank robber, depending on who you ask. He also killed a man in Idaho up in 1898, but that was in self-defense. I would know it because I was there. My name is Smokey Joe, and I used to run with Tap and the boys. Tap knew all the outlaw cowboys from Texas on up to Idaho. In fact, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid were involved in the Great Parachute Colorado train robbery of June 7, 1904. They held up the Rio Grande No. 5 train, and the score was huge, but they ate some bullets before they could spend it. Everyone thought it was Tap Duncan. He'd better watch his step for interrupting me. Alright, so that train robbery, everyone thought it was Tap Duncan, but it wasn't, because Tap was right here in Mojave County with me, raising cattle. Tap and his wife Ollie owned one of the largest ranches in the country, 1.5 million acres just outside Kingman. In fact, Tap was known not only for his quick hands, but also his skill in ranching. He is one of the first ranchers to irrigate this hot, hard desert. Now, regardless of what actual events Tap may have participated in, we do know he died right here downtown in 1944. It was a cool evening, ripe for some poker and mischief. Me and the boys had gathered at the sub-bar in the basement of the Hotel Beale. Tap was due to meet us, but he never did get the opportunity. On his way over the tracks, just to skip away from the Beale, bam! A Buick struck and killed him. At least he died with this boots on. I miss you, buddy. Now, the legend claims that at midnight, every October 24th since 1945, a band of 5 horses and 4 cowboys, myself included, ride down 4th Street to the spot of his death. Tap mounts his horse and rides away with us. Somewhere in the distance, he turns and aims his guns back at the spot where he died. Many townfolk claim that they can hear gunfire clear down at the end of 4th Street. Others say they see a flash of lightning. So if you're here on the 24th at midnight, leave a poker chip that marks the spot where he died, so Tap can shoot and find his mark. Well,
You know that feeling on the back of your neck?
The original Pioneer Cemetery was located just down the road and was a resting place for over 400 bodies. But in 1944, they had to make way to build the original Lee Williams High School. That's right, Lee Williams is built directly on top of a graveyard. Many of the graves were relocated to the current Union Cemetery on Stuffing Hill Road. But they charged the families of the deceased a fee of $45 to do so. And since this was a lot of money back then, not all the bodies were moved to their final resting place. And construction of the school continued. This heinous act did not bode well for the construction. By the way, that's why you're lucky to be on today. Workers claimed of hearing ghosts, and some rooms did not get completed. Deep inside the school, there is a narrow passage that leads to an abandoned room. No one goes there. You will know it when you see it, as the door is smaller than the other door, and the room is empty, except for one lonely light that turns on and off. They say an old man with a bowler hat haunts this room and will tip over chairs when some hapless teenager leaves it there after midnight. They also say you can hear ghost children in the girls' and boys' bathroom during school hours. The paranormal presence is strongest at the location of the new football field, which is directly over the original graveyard. In the renovation of the high school in 2011, construction workers unearthed 11 grave sites
7 coffins, cufflinks, and jewelry behind the football field bleachers. There are multiple reports of ghostly women in pioneer dress who attend graduation each year on the football field. Do you sense something? You're gonna like this one. It's a happy story with a happy ending. Sounds like you've heard this one. The quaint red brick building behind me was originally built to serve as Kingman's first elementary school. See? It's a happy story. As with most schools, it was a place to fuel the growing minds of a generation and help quench their thirst for knowledge. The 3rd grade teacher was well loved and respected, but she was always challenged to keep the rambunctious boys in line. After several failed attempts at discipline, Ms. Harold sent the 2 usual suspects to spend attention on the balcony just above the main entrance. At first, this looked like it was going to be a suitable form of reprimand, but the boys continued their normal form of uproar. As they wrestled, one of the boys was flung over the railing and fell 18 feet onto the pavement, his skull shattered. No one came out and blamed Miss Harold directly, but they were all thinking it. It's a shame, they would say. Boys will be boys, but this was no comfort to the school teacher who had sentenced that boy to his death. One evening, as she stayed late grading, the guilt overwhelmed her. She couldn't take the stares and whispers any longer. She took a length of jump rope from the toy chest and methodically crafted her own hangman's noose, fastened it around that very tree branch, and acting as her own executioner, left her dangling, lifeless body for the whole town to see, as penance for her sins. See, I told you it was a happy story.
Yeah, so happy.
Now, there have been recent rumors of the incorrect disposal of nuclear waste in the hills surrounding downtown. Now, this has been affecting some of Kingman's citizens. The symptoms include trouble focusing, stiff joints, dry mouth, heightened sense of smell, and uncontrollable hunger. Yes, she's copying me, by the way. This is probably nothing to worry about, but in any event, you'll want to watch your step and try not to smell too tasty. Also, please keep your legs, arms, and most importantly, your head inside the tool at all times.
That big green one. If not, you need to get your vision checked.
Rickety, a passionate fellow who loved beer and good food, helped build the original Kingman Club in 1944, which is now Rickety Cricket Brewing. Rickety had a beautiful wife named Lily, who according to legend passed away in the Boyd Hotel, which is next door to what is today Rickety Cricket Brewing. Legend also says that Lily roams the halls in a pretty green dress, searching for Rickety. And Rickety also may be seen in ghostly form, raising a toast to the newly renovated Kingman Club sign, where he surely is waiting patiently for his dear sweet Lily, and satisfying his love for good drink. The Kingman Club sign is one of the more impressive signs on Beale Street that date back to 1944, when the building was built. The sign fell into disrepair for many years, perhaps decades, but was faithfully restored to its original glory in 2014 when the new owners bought the building. So, if you have time, you will may become a tradition, raise a beer, and give a toast to Rickety and his long-lost love Lily. But only if you're old enough to do so. Shall we continue? According to local law, Central Commercial Company was America's most amazing country store from 1917 to 1978. Before that, it was a livery stable and feed yard. Restored in 2008, the building received the Governor's Heritage Preservation Honor Award. It now houses multiple businesses, including the wine bar, restaurant, church, and the art hub that the Kingman Center of the Arts recently took over as its home. And speaking of the art hub, that is where we're going next. And when you're here, you will have the opportunity to view a lot of interesting history of Kingman in this building. I enjoyed your company. You guys were a wonderful crowd. I hope you enjoyed the stories. Did you guys have a wonderful time?
Yes.
My name is Rico, and I appreciate your time and have a good time. Please, I'm going to hand it off, and she'll tell you a little bit about this art.